Hello. And today's hidden miracle is the story of the conversion of St. Paul, a story I think most of us know pretty well. Paul, who at that time was known as Saul, was a Pharisee, follower of the Mosaic law, and a fierce enemy of those who were followers of the Way, as the early Christians were referred to. He was on the road to Damascus, on his way to find followers of Jesus and capture them and bring them back to Jerusalem in chains to be thrown into prison and persecuted. And all of a sudden there was a blinding light flashed all around him, and a voice called out, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" And Saul replied and said, "Who are you, sir?" And the voice said, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." And still blinded, Saul was led into Damascus, where he didn't eat or drink for 3 days. Now, I love this story, and I love it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it doesn't seem at first glance to be a hidden miracle. I mean, it happened on a major road. The road from Jerusalem to Damascus was traveled every single day by hundreds of people. And it happened in the middle of the day with bright flashing light from the sky and a heavenly voice. It was right out there in the open. So it doesn't seem to be hidden. And the other reason that I really love it is because the story is told 3 times in the Acts of the Apostles. And each time there's just a little bit of a variation. So for example, in chapter 9, starting with verse 1, Paul's companions heard the voice but didn't see anyone. If you go further into the chapter, starting around verse 22, the companions didn't hear the voice but saw the light. And then further on, starting around verse 26, they all fell down, not just Paul. And the changes in the details just make St. Paul seem so human in his retelling of his own conversion story. I know sometimes I can't remember details of stories, so he just makes it seem so human. But where are the hidden miracles? So I think the very first one is St. Paul himself. Because remember, he was out to capture Christians, to have them thrown into jail and persecuted. He wasn't like the miracles that are in the other Gospels of people who, are crippled or have a withered hand or are deaf or are sick, and they're asking Jesus to be cured, or they're looking for forgiveness, or they're looking for their belief in him to be strengthened. Paul wasn't looking for any of this. Literally, his conversion, his miracle came from out of the blue. But there was another miracle in Damascus. When Paul was led there for those 3 days and 3 nights that he didn't eat or drink, the Lord appeared to a disciple, a follower, called Ananias, and told Ananias that Paul had a dream about him, and Ananias was to go to Paul, and by laying his hands on Paul, Paul would regain his sight. And Ananias didn't want to do it. Ananias knew Paul's reputation. He knew that he was a persecutor of the Christians. But his conversion, his hidden miracle, his change of heart, was that Ananias believed the Lord when the Lord told him that St. Paul was going to be his major instrument to bring his word to, as the quote says, to the Gentiles, kings, and the Israelites. So Ananias had a change of heart and did what he was told. But I also can't help but thinking about all of those companions that were with Paul. Whether they heard the voice or not, or saw the light or not, or fell to the ground or not. What about them? Did they have changes of heart? Were there hidden miracles within them? After all, they had probably been with Paul for a while as Saul, capturing and imprisoning Christians. What if they had a change of heart? And if they did, how many hearts might they have changed? How many times did they pass on their belief? We'll never know. So, what does the conversion of St. Paul mean for us? Well, I think what it means is that it doesn't necessarily take a blinding light and a voice from heaven for us to have a change of heart. We may have a change of heart in little ways, in the simple kind word, a gesture, or an action that doesn't take much from us, but means so much more to another person. To be there when you are needed. You may never know what you say or what you do, how it affects somebody else, and how it can change their heart. So, offer a prayer today for all of those who may have changed your heart in some small way. I maybe didn't even know that they had done that. God bless.